Come up, please, Ben. Ladies and gentlemen, this witness has been previously sworn to testify truthfully. Mr. Stacy. Oh, sorry about that. Let's do a do-over. Ladies and gentlemen, this witness has been previously sworn to testify truthfully. Mr. Staten.
Ms. Moore, would you spell your first name for us?
Shaylee, Shaylee.
And your last name, Moore?
Yes, sir, Moore.
And Ms. Moore, do you commonly go by Shay?
I used to, yes.
You're all grown up now, you don't do that?
Yes, sir.
And ma'am, just so that I'm clear here for us, what's your date of birth?
November 4th, 1998.
Initially, just so we get this clear, how do you know the defendant Tanner?
He raped me in December of 2014.
Now, what age were you when you first came in contact with Tanner?
I would say around 14.
That'd be 7th grade?
Yes, sir.
And was Tanner still in school or out of school?
I believe he had already graduated.
And what geographic area were you in when you were having contact with Tanner when you were in the 7th grade?
Like, where was I living at the time?
What places were you having contact with?
We would hang out at the park in Azle with mutual friends around the same time, and that was how we first came in contact.
At some point after that, when you were in 14, did you similarly hang out with Tanner and some of his friends?
A few times, yes.
And we've heard a little bit about this, but were they in a band?
Yes, sir.
And how many different bands that he had did you hang out with? Multiple or just one?
As far as his band, only one.
And as far as this particular band, when did you begin, and I'll just use the term hanging out, and then we'll talk about it, but when did you begin hanging out?
It would have been November of 2014.
And let's talk about, when I say hanging out with the band, what type of things were you doing with the band?
I was being picked up and taken to his friend's house for band practice, and I went to a few of their shows.
So at this point in time, in November of 2014, what you said?
Yes, sir.
How old are you in November of 2014?
I had just turned 16.
And so November 4th of 2014, you would have turned 16.
Yes, sir.
And you said this sexual assault occurred a month after that in December of 2014.
Yes, sir.
So during this time, you said that you would go to the shows. What kind of shows were these?
Small band shows at Tomcats in Fort Worth.
Is Tomcats the name of the establishment?
Yes, sir.
And what type of establishment is this?
It was a bar music venue combo.
And would this be where Tanner is also performing in this band?
Yes, sir.
And as far as that's concerned, I'm going to ask you, did you have a friend by the name of Hagerman?
Yes, sir.
And is that how you got to know Tanner?
She was one of our mutual friends, yes.
And was she around the band as well?
Yes, sir.
And should you exhibit here? Sorry.
That's all right.
Yes, sir.
And do you actually know who took that picture?
I believe it was Kaylin.
Okay. And do you recognize the people that are in this picture?
Yes, sir.
And what date was that taken?
It was posted on November 21st. It was taken the night before.
So this was taken, say it again,
November 20th,
of
2014.
2014. And in this picture, who's in this picture?
Tanner, from left to right, Tanner Horner, myself, Cody Spiker, Charles Wooldridge, and then the other gentleman whose name I don't fully remember.
Unknown band member.
Yeah.
All right. Judge, we asked to admit states 294.
State's exhibits 294s have been,
And let me ask you, in this picture, how old are you in this picture?
16 years old.
And if this is taken November 20th, is that, if my arithmetic's correct, how many days after your 16th birthday?
Less than 3 weeks.
Okay. So in this particular time, in November of 2014, you said you went to a couple of shows. Were those both at this Comcast place?
Yes, sir.
And then you also said you went to band practice, is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
And where did you go to band practice?
At Charles Wooldridge's house.
Is that one of those other people in the picture?
Yes, sir.
And so at this particular time, and you're hanging out with these people, you know what general area Charles Wooldridge's house is? Is it Tarrant County, Wise County, where is it?
It's in Tarrant County. It's in Arlington, if I recall correctly. Arlington.
And so during this time, Judge, can we publish that to the viewers?
State's 294?
Yes.
Sure.
Who is this on the left here, the only female in this?
That's me, sir.
That's you. So this location in Arlington, what was the primary purpose of the band being at this location?
They would have a party the night before and band the next morning, or afternoon rather.
And so during this time, in November of 2014, you said that you ended up at this location. How was it that you ended up from where you were to this location?
Cody Spiker came and picked me up from my grandmother's house and drove me there.
Now, this guy, Cody Spiker, is he also in that picture?
Yes, sir.
And let me just ask you, how old is Cody Spiker?
Approximately the same age as Tanner Horner.
At that time, how old is Cody Spiker?
He would have been approximately 21 to 23 range.
And at this time, you're a month after your 16th birthday. How old is Tanner Horner?
23.
So if my arithmetic right, that's 7 years older than you?
Yes, sir.
So these times that you go to band practice, where were you living at that time?
I was living in Roanoke.
And who were you living with?
My grandmother.
Now, your grandmother, would she have approved, if you know, of you being at band practice with these individuals?
No, sir.
And I'm going to ask you some other questions, but would she approve of what you were doing at these band practice with these other individuals?
No, sir.
And during this time, besides band practice, is there some drinking going on?
Yes, sir.
And is there some smoking going on?
Yes, sir.
And you're participating?
Yes, sir.
Now, as part of this, you said initially that Tanner had raped you in December.
Yes, sir.
And let me just ask you, where was that location that took place?
That was at that was at Charles Wooldridge's house in Arlington.
In December of when?
December of 2014.
Now, do you know the exact date?
The early morning of December 6th of 2014.
Now, let's talk about, at some point, was there ever a conversation between you and Tanner
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the jury, what was the substance of that conversation between you and Tanner about your age?
There were multiple conversations, but the gist of them, to my recollection, was him trying to convince me that we should be in a relationship, and me telling him that I could not do that because he was 7 years older than me, and I couldn't lie about something that big, and I couldn't be with somebody with that much of an age difference between us.
So at this point in time, and how did you communicate with him? Was it, you kids communicate different ways, but was it verbally, was it by?
It was written communication via Facebook Messenger and an app called Kick.
Any doubt in your mind that he knew your age?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
Or no, sir, sorry.
We knew what you meant. Any doubt in your mind that he knew that you had a problem with the difference between you two's age as it applied to dating?
No, sir.
Now, let's talk about this. Let's go back to your 16th birthday. Did you have a happy 16th birthday?
No, sir.
And why didn't you have a happy 16th birthday?
I had just gone through a breakup with my high school sweetheart of sorts.
And was that upsetting to you?
Yes, sir.
And when you're 16 and you just broke up with your high school sweetheart, what do you do?
Depends on the person, but for me, I kind of just sought attention and tried to stay busy.
And this is the time in which you've broken up and you begin hanging out with Tanner Moore.
Yes, sir.
And let's talk about your relationship with Tanner Moore. At any point, did you tell him that you wanted to have a relationship with him?
No, sir.
At any point, did you tell him that you wanted to have sex with him?
No, sir.
In fact, did you ever have an altercation where he attempted something with you and y'all had a discussion about what he did?
Yes, sir.
And where was that?
That was at Tomcats in November of 2014.
Was this at one of these shows?
Yes, sir. And if I remember correctly, I believe it was the night that picture was taken.
So the night this picture was taken, you have a conversation with Tanner. What's that conversation?
When I first got there, he told me that his mother was going to be coming and to tell her that I was 18 if she asked about my age. And then as the night progressed, he had kissed me, and afterwards we had a conversation the next day about how I couldn't do anything physical with him because of the age difference.
This sounds like the second time you made that clear to you.
Yes, sir.
And this was in response to him trying to kiss you.
Yes, sir.
Now, you said Tanner Corner told you to tell his mom that you were 18.
Yes, sir.
Why was that?
Because he knew that she would be, he told me that
Over, you may answer.
he told me that she would be upset if she found out that I was 16, as well as his bandmates. He also told me to tell them that I was 18, though Cody Spiker knew my real age.
So going into this weekend, December 6th and 7th, are we doing a show or are we doing band practice?
It was band practice.
And so how does 16-year-old Shay set this up?
I had told my grandmother that I was staying the weekend with a friend, and it was a friend that I was supposed to be getting picked up from their house at the end of the weekend. So I was going to go to band practice late Friday night on the 5th. We were going to have some drinks, hang out. They were going to do practice, actual practice, on the day of the 6th. And then the evening of the 6th, we went to Tanner Horner's house.
So I'll pick this apart here a little bit. So what I'm getting at is that you told your grandma a lot.
Yes, sir.
And so you would have cover so you could hang out with me
Yes, sir.
and do a little drinking.
Yes, sir.
Now, to get to Arlington or your grandma's house on this particular weekend, how do you get from point A to point B?
Cody Spiker picked me up from my grandmother's house and drove me to Charles Woldridge's house.
And that's one of the guys in that picture you just saw.
Yes, sir.
Cody's fine. All right. So you get there, what do you do when you get there?
It's pretty late. We're drinking, smoking some weed, listening to music, hanging out. Initially, it's nothing out of the norm for a general house party besides the fact that I was there at 16.
And so how does the night progress? What happens?
We are drinking, and then eventually everything starts to wind down. People are starting to go to sleep. And I am told by Cody Spiker that me and Tanner were going to be sleeping in a bedroom. And Cody was going to be sleeping on the couch with his, at the time, partner.
All right. So a few weeks ago, you had a conversation with Tanner, and you testified that you would,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm just rolling on. Sorry. You had a conversation where you said you were clear with him, you did not want a relationship.
Yes, sir.
So prior to this weekend, was that less than a month on my calculations?
Yes, sir.
And had those same conversations that you said by Facebook Messenger and your app, what was it called again?
Kick. K-I-K.
Okay. Did you have those conversations in that same period as well?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt in your mind that Tanner Horner understands that you don't want to have a relationship with him?
No, sir.
So we've been drinking, we're at Cody Spiker's house, or Charles Woolridge's house with band. Everybody's, I guess, crashing out, if you will. And you find a place to crash out?
Yes, we were sleeping in one of the main bedrooms of the house.
Now let's be honest with the jury. How much did you have to drink?
A lot. I lost count at like 7 shots, and I had a few beers, plus we were smoking as well.
At this point in time, did you bring the alcohol with you?
No, sir.
Did you bring the weed with you?
No, sir.
This was provided to you by the bank.
Yes, sir.
Now, when this is going on, y'all are crashing out, you said, was it a guest house or just another bedroom in the house?
It was just one of the bedrooms in the house.
And at some point, did you crash out?
Yes, sir. We go and we lay down.
Anything at that time go on out of the ordinary?
As we were laying down, it was a pretty big bed, so I went to one side and he began to try to cuddle with me, and I told him that I didn't want to cuddle, I just wanted to go to sleep, I didn't want to be touched.
All right. And I think you've said before that because of how much alcohol you had, you don't remember every single second that went on from the time you got in bed until you got
Yes, sir.
after.
Yes, sir.
But let's talk about what you do. So you go to sleep. Do you sleep all night, or do you wake up at some point during the night?
I wake up at some point during the night.
And what causes you to wake up at some point during the night?
I became conscious and came to Tanner Horner raping me.
Now, I'm going to ask you some questions about that, okay? I'm not trying to pry into your private life. I'm going to ask you some questions. When you say that Tanner Horner is raping you, you understand it's not legal for a 23-year-old to have sex with a 16-year-old.
Yes, sir.
At any point, did you consent to have any sexual relationship, even if you couldn't consent by law, with Tanner Horner?
No, sir.
And so you woke up with him raping you. Now, what does that mean? Describe it. What do you mean? What does he do?
There are 2 specific moments that I remember as I was in and out of consciousness. He was on top of me. I was laying on my back. He had his penis inside of me, and his sweat dripped into my mouth. And then I remember coming to again, and I was on my stomach, and he had my hands pinned behind my back, and he was continuing to rape me.
Let's talk about this. You said that he was on top of you. Now, let me ask a question about that, a little more of a physical question. The jury seen a picture of you at the time, at or near the time.
Yes, sir.
Now, not to be rude to you, but were you bigger or smaller now than you were then?
I was quite a bit smaller.
And with regard to Tanner, as you see him in the courtroom today, was he bigger or smaller than he is today?
He was significantly bigger.
And so, at that point in time, you said he is on top of you,
Yes, sir.
and you indicated that his penis is inside you.
Yes, sir.
Now, with that, besides Tanner sweating on you, what else is he doing?
He is continuously thrusting in and out of my body, grunting.
Okay. And then you said that the next thing you remember is you're on your stomach.
Yes, sir.
Now, is the bigger version of Tanner still on top of you?
Yes, sir.
Now, at this point, were you able to push yourself up off of him physically?
No, sir.
And even if you had been sober at the time, would you have been able to push yourself up?
No, sir.
And is that because of the weight difference with this one?
Yes, sir.
Now, the second time you said that he's on top of you, you said his penis is inside you again, and can you show the jury how that he had his hands pinned behind your back? How does that work?
I was laying on the bed, and he had my hands on the low of my back.
Like that?
Yes, sir.
And he had his hand, was it his hand holding your hands together?
I only recall one hand specifically.
Okay. But whatever it was, you weren't able to pull your hand back around.
Yes, sir.
What's the next thing you remember after that?
We woke up in the morning, went about morning as usual. I had no recollection of the night before.
So at that point in time, you get out of bed, are you still fuzzy from the night before?
I'm definitely still a little out of it.
All right. You've got some memory today. When did your memory come back to you about what Tanner had done to you that night?
When he made a secondary attempt at assaulting me on the morning of the 7th.
So let's talk about that. We're in Arlington, we're at Charles Woolridge's house, right? You get up, how do you get from the secondary location? What is the secondary location?
Tanner Horner's house.
And when we say his house, we've seen some pictures here. Is it just one big house? Are there multiple buildings? What is it?
There was one main house, and he had a room in a shed in the backyard.
Now, this particular shed in the backyard, did y'all arrive and go into the main house or the shed?
We went through the main house to get to the shed.
All right. And as far as this shed, is it a big shed, small shed? What if you remember?
I would say it's on the slightly bigger side for sheds, but it wasn't exactly like house-sized shed or anything.
Have you ever been to his house before?
No, sir.
And who took you to his house?
Cody Spiker.
Was it just you and Cody, or was it somebody else in the vehicle?
It was Cody Spiker and myself, and Tanner and myself, this day specifically.
So when this is going on, do you remember what time it is on day 2 that you finally arrive at Tanner's house?
It was pretty late in the day. It was dark outside, but I don't remember the time.
And so you get there, you get to the shed, what happens next?
He and I go through the house, go into the shed, we're hanging out, and then he hits up one of his friends to bring some acid over.
So Tanner Horner called somebody to bring drugs to the house.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever done those drugs before?
No, sir.
And so how does that work?
In regards to what exactly?
Well, I mean, what do y'all do?
His friend shows up, he gives me and Tanner the acid. His friend doesn't take any. The three of us are hanging out for a while, where they're playing music videos on the TV, and then his friend leaves, and things kind of start to wind down for the night.
So, taking this acid, I mean, did anybody force you to do that?
No, sir.
This was your first time,
Yes, sir.
and so you're there in the house. I'm not gonna ask you a lot of details about that, but how long does that go on? I don't know the terminology, but how long does it go on from the time that you do it till the time it gets there?
It varies from my understanding, 6 to 8 hours on average. But for my experience specifically, it was around the 7-ish hour mark.
So during that hour mark, is anything going on during that 7 hour mark?
Mostly we're just watching TV, or watching music videos specifically, hanging out, talking, and then at the end we are laying down because I'm ready to go to sleep. It's approximately 7 a.m. at this point, and that was when the secondary attempt was made.
And let's talk about that and walk through that. You're laying down, you're coming down off whatever you take.
Yes, sir.
You lay down. What does Tanner do when you lay down?
He lays down behind me and begins touching me.
You say touching. Let's be more specific. What is he doing when he's touching?
More specifically, I was laying on my right side on the edge of the bed. I was kind of just scrolling, just trying to occupy my brain for a few minutes because I couldn't quite fall asleep. And he begins to trace his hand up and down my side, up and down my leg, my hip, my waist, talking about how he's sorry that my ex hurt me, that he would never hurt me like he did, that he wishes that I didn't have to go through that. And then I began to have brief glimpses of the night before and start to hyperventilate. I'm on the verge of an anxiety attack. He's keeps touching me. Eventually he starts asking me what's wrong, and I can't bring myself to respond because I didn't know how to even begin to explain what was wrong to the person that was hurting me.
So at this point in time, you said things are kind of coming back. Did you say you had a physical response to what was going on here?
Yes, sir. I started hyperventilating.
And so what are you trying to do, if anything, at the point in which Tanner's doing this?
My body is physically frozen, but since I had my phone in my hand, I did start texting friends to find somebody to come pick me up.
Were they able to come get you?
One person was, yes.
And so it's somewhat, you just get up and walk out and drive off with your friend?
He gets up at some point from behind me. He's pacing around the room. At one point, he's blocking or standing in front of the door. Finally I get a hold of a friend who says that they can come get me, and she asked me what the address was, so I asked him what his address was, and he told me that he wouldn't give it to me unless I talked to him to tell him what was wrong.
Did you know where you were?
No, sir. I knew that I was close to Azle, Texas, but I didn't know where exactly.
And you've never been to this location?
No, sir.
And so, did Tanner give you the information you were asking?
No, sir. He never gave me the information.
How many times do you think you asked him for the address to the house?
I don't recall specifically, but at least 2 or 3.
Okay. And he wouldn't give it to you?
No, sir.
And you said that he was physically in front of the door. Were you trying to leave when that was happening?
In the time that he was blocking the door, I was still standing over beside his bed. I was putting my stuff in my bag, trying to get out of there.
Okay. And were you finally able to get out of there?
Eventually, he moved from in front of the door, and I was able to beeline from beside the bed to out the door. through the backyard, through the back door that went through his grandparents' room where they were sleeping. I went into the dining area, found a piece of mail with his address on it, and hid in the bathroom until my friend could come get me.
At some point, did your friend come get you?
Yes, sir.
Now, initially, did you report this to anyone?
No, sir.
But did you tell anyone?
Yes, sir.
And who did you tell?
I told several of my friends. I told his bandmates knew about it. Some of them. I told my brother. That kind of stuff.
Why not law enforcement at that time?
There's a lot of reasons, but ultimately I didn't think that I would be believed.
Now, at some point, you talked to us before about you and Tim communicating.
Yes, sir.
And did y'all, during this short time that you were hanging out with him, what were some of the subjects that he communicated with you about during that time?
The majority of our conversations revolved around music or the show Doctor Who. But he did disclose that he was into BDSM and rougher sex with me as well.
So these are Tanner Horner having those type of conversations with 16-year-old Shay.
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point during this, did you begin to speak out a little more about what had happened to you?
Yes, sir. I was telling people close to me, though I was limited about exactly how much I told and who I told for a few years. And then in 2018, I became public with it.
And when you went public with it, did Tanner Horner respond when you went public and communicate with you about you talking about what happened to you?
Yes, sir. He messaged me directly.
Let me show you.
Yeah, let's stop for lunch, okay? Get an exhibit from the last witness. We will start at 1:30. 1:30.
Why don't y'all sit down? If you see me coming, stand. That's your job. Mother is right at the wedding.
Say it loud enough for all of us to hear in the back.
All right, everyone may be seated. Good afternoon. We are ready to proceed. Mr. Stanton.
Ms. Moore, I was asking you with regard taking to 2018, that's when you had indicated you started openly speaking out about what had happened with Athena. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And as part of that, what was Tanner Horner's response on Facebook to you with regard to what you were doing and speaking out about what happened?
He had messaged me directly on Facebook Messenger, claiming that I was slandering him.
All right. Good man, Coach.
Yes, sir.
You already have that exhibit here in front of you, ma'am. And I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 295. Is that the Facebook message that you were talking about?
Yes, sir.
And what is the date on this?
December 20th of 2018.
Okay, and is this where he's indicating that you're somehow slandering him?
Yes, sir.
And what were you saying at the time that potentially be construed as slanderous.
I was posting that he was a rapist and that he had raped me when I was 16.
And so have you taken a look at this entire exhibit? Is this the entirety of the message that he sent you?
Yes, sir.
And did you respond to this message in any form or fashion?
No, sir.
Is this a true and correct copy of the message? You recognize it?
Yes, sir.
Judge, can I ask you, that states 295.
State's Exhibit 295 is admitted.
And what I'm going to point you to here is a couple of things here. When it comes here with regard, would you start with however, right where it says however, and read that please?
However, it has come to my attention that you've been going around slandering my name to people, saying that I raped, in quotations, you, when you know that is not the case. In the years since I've talked to you, I have not even once slandered your name or have said anything degrading about your character. I haven't had a reason to. Excuse me.
I'm going to stop right there. And that's what you're talking about, where he's indicating slandering you at that point.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes, sir.
And then this message continues on here. What does he ask you to do at the very end of the message? What does it say?
So I'm asking you out of respect, please stop spreading lies and misinformation about what happened between us.
Are you lying about what happened between you?
No, sir.
So when you got this, what did you feel that Tanner Horn was trying to get you to do?
I was thinking that he expected me to stay quiet, to not speak about my rape, not speak about the things that he had done to me, and the overall view of his character that I was putting out to the world.
Now, this same exact information that you provided us today as to what happened, did you provide the same, or I won't say exactly the same, but the same story to the police when you reported this?
Yes, sir.
And when did you finally report it?
It would have been the Monday following Athena's murder.
You felt at that time compelled to come forward.
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point, let me ask this. You said that you and Tanner somehow had a conversation about music.
Yes, sir.
And during that time, would he also have an occasion to write music lyrics?
Yes, sir.
And at some point, did you come across a set of music lyrics that you believe relates to you?
Yes, sir.
And one last time here. I'll show you what's Marcus states 296. Can you identify that?
That is a picture of Tanner Horner that he posted on his Instagram with song lyrics as the caption.
Yeah, we're correct.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And what was his
Our
incident?
approach, listen.
What they mean?
I believe they could mean consensual non-consent.
And let me just ask you, with regard to that, is at some point at or near the time that he's using that handle, is that the same time that you have made the allegations that he raped you?
Yes, sir.
Okay? And at some point in time, did Channel Warner have conversations with you? Let me just ask you, what does CNC mean?
Consensual non-consent.
Okay, and in layman's term, what does that mean?
It's basically rape fantasies.
Okay, and is that something at or near the time that he raped you, that he communicated you with, that he had that fantasy?
Yes, sir.
Did he also have a fantasy, in addition to that, about tying people up and other things of that nature?
Yes, sir.
That's what-
Mr. Go.
Yes, are you aware of any bands who Mr. Palmer was in after you two parted company in 2014?
I heard about a couple.
Are you familiar with the band called Committed and Conquer?
I've heard the name, yes.
At the time he sent you that message in 2018, are you aware that he was in the band Committed and Conquer?
I was not paying attention to his social media, so no.
Do you have any personal knowledge of how many times he's changed his username?
I did not watch his social media, so no.
Are you aware that according to the Meta website, when you change your user handle, your username on either Facebook or Twitter, Facebook or Instagram, it will change that handle, that name on all old posts?
I am aware, yes, sir.
So if you change that name after you two parted company in 2014, that would change.
Y'all would do that all over speculating.
Go ahead, we're outside the presence of the jury. Go ahead.
That would change that handle to CNC Twitch on all of his other posts.
Yes.
You testified a moment ago that you said it could be consent, non-consent.
Yes.
So you're not positive that that's why that was named?
I never asked him directly, so no, I don't know what he had in mind when he changed his username. I just know that he has told me that he is into consensual non-consent and that it makes sense for that to be his username.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Is there an objection?
Yes, it's a speculation. She just said she doesn't know that why he changed his username. She knows that they had a discussion about consent, non-consent, and she knows what his user handle is, and that's speculation.
All right, your objection is sustained as far as the exhibit, but if she wants to testify as to the other things that he told her, I'm gonna let her do that. She testified that he told her at one point he was into something like that. I'll let her testify to that. But any speculation as to the exhibit is sustained.
So in that vein, am I allowed to
No.
She knows that outside of this?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Your Honor, we've also raised an objection using the term rape. I believe the charge is sexual assault.
That's overruled. You may have run any objection. Okay, let's go.
So I can't speculate on what I can do.
All right, everyone may be seated. Mr. Stanton, you may proceed.
More, prior to the time that Warner sexually assaulted you, did he ever communicate to you that he had any fantasies or desires with regard to rape or non-consensual sex?
Yes, sir.
And what did he communicate to you about that?
He had communicated to me that he was into consensual non-consent, which is rape fantasy. He had talked to me about how he liked BDSM, he liked the idea of tying people up, those kinds of things.
That's what it's showing.
Cross-examination.
Mr. Moore, my name's Steve Phil, I never met before. So I have a couple of follow-up questions for you. Now, once you did report the sexual assault in, I guess, 2022,
Yes, sir.
you have given a few reported statements about what happened, right?
Yes, sir.
Let me clarify a few things from those prior statements. Now, you talked about, I believe you already testified, you had plans for that week, right?
Yes, sir.
And this was you and Tanner making a plan to hang out.
Yes, sir.
And the plan was, you packed a bag to close for the week, right?
Yes.
And the plan was on Friday and Friday night to stay at your band member's house.
It was Tuesday, Friday night with Charles Wooldridge, or at Charles Wooldridge's house, and then Saturday night at Tanner Horner's house.
Now, to clarify, when you talked, we were talking earlier about what had happened that night. When you woke up that morning, you didn't realize you'd been sexually assaulted.
Correct.
And you took a shower at Charles Wooldridge's house while the band was practicing.
I have no recollection of that.
If I told you that in your original interview with Investigator Lowe and Deputy Ratliff, at the 47:39 minute mark, you said, yeah, I showered there. And then at the 49:01 minute mark, you said, from what I can recall, he was dressed when I got up. Then I remember showering while they were doing their band practice.
That's possible. This was 11 years ago. I know that I wasn't hanging out with them while they did band practice, so
Sure. But if you did, if that was correct, your recollection that time, and you did shower that morning, you didn't realize that you'd been sexually assaulted at that point.
correct.
Two of you, I guess Cody Spiker took you to Tanner's place.
Correct.
You dropped acid and hung out,
Yes, sir.
conversation, watched television, all that sort of thing.
Yes, sir.
And then it was when you testified that when you were coming down from the acid, and I guess he touched your leg or side, that you remembered these two images, two moments in time.
Yes, sir. He was trailing his hand up and down my body, and I started to have flashbacks from the night before.
And that would have been early morning on Sunday the 7th.
Yes, sir.
never gained any kind of continuous memory of you again?
No, sir. Those are the only recollections that I have of that night.
I just want to clarify, and I think I understand what you're saying, and I know it's been a while. But you talked about Tanner got up and was pacing the shed,
Yes,
and he was talking to you about what's wrong, that sort of thing.
yes,
And you were able to get someone who's going to come and pick you up.
yes, sir.
And at that point, he was between you and the door that you're still at.
Yes,
And then he continues to pace around and you leave.
yes,
He did not follow.
no,
I don't think you've ever stated that you thought that he was intentionally blocking you, he was just in your way.
he was standing in front of the door, and when I asked for the address, he told me that he wouldn't give it to me until I talked to him. So I would classify that as trying to prevent me from leaving, yes.
That you were able to walk out and you didn't follow.
Yes, sir.
Your friend Taylor Bell's mother came to
Yes, sir.
you, and you went out to the car,
Yes,
and she went inside, and then came out and drove you to Taylor's house,
correct.
and you did not tell her what had happened.
I did not tell her the details, but she knew a little bit about that morning. Are you referring to her mother specifically with that question? Yes.
So whatever you told her mother that morning, she didn't follow.
Correct.
And you testified that Cody Spiker was around Tanner's age,
Yes, sir.
and he was dating someone younger than 17.
I believe so, yes, sir.
And also stated before that Taylor Bell's boyfriend was someone that's too old for her too.
There was a age gap between them, yes, but not 7 years.
And I believe you had stated before that there was another young lady named Woodard who was dating grown men too.
Yes, sir.
And this is all in this little friend group.
I wouldn't say that my friend Taylor was friends with them per se, but yes, there were other women, other teenage girls that were hanging around with Cody and Tanner.
I want to talk a little bit about Tanner and his communication method. You had previously stated that he would say just off the wall,
Yeah,
and that he wouldn't recognize when a conversation was making people uncomfortable.
yes,
And he had kind of an erratic energy.
I would say that, yes.
Didn't understand social cues.
Speculation, but yeah.
Well, and I don't want you to speculate. I mean, your experience with him and seeing him in a group social setting, did you ever notice him get trouble picking on social cues?
I would say that he was weird, but as far as being able to pick up on social cues, specifics, we only had a handful of interactions with other people. So I would say yes, but I have limited experience with that.
What about his appropriateness in conversation?
I mean, he was having conversations with me about his rape fantasies when I was 16, so I would say that he was very inappropriate in his conversations.
You said the bulk of your conversations you had with him were centered around music and Doctor Who and things like that.
That was how he began our interactions, yes, was by talking about Doctor Who and music.
That's all I have for him.
Redirect.
These recollections you have are the same ones you've been talking about since 2018?
Yes, sir.
Are they the same ones that Tam Holman tried to shut you up about in 2018?
Yes, sir.
as what Tanner Warner did to you.
I lost my sense of self for years. I became very erratic in my behaviors while also losing all sense of voice for myself. I was angry. I was angry at everybody and at everything. I ended up getting into an abusive relationship that lasted 4 years.
Let's keep it question and answer.
Once this happened to Athena, how did you feel differently than you did before?
I felt like I had been put back into 16-year-old me's body. I felt guilt for not coming forward. I felt shame for not speaking up sooner, legally speaking. I felt a lot of pain reliving those memories over and over and over again, as well as thinking about the amount of pain that other people have experienced at the hands of him over and over and over again. I am now back in therapy. I struggle with opening up to people, communicating effectively, because I don't feel like I will be heard, because I go back to that 16-year-old version of me.
Mr. Goble.
Ms. Moore, when you say that he was trying to silence you or whatever with this message, and he says, basically denies the rape happens, and asks you to stop spreading lies and misinformation about what happened to him. Is that correct?
That is what he messaged me, correct?
Mr. Stegman.
That's where we are.
May Ms. Moore be excused subject to any potential recall? May she be excused subject to any recall? Thank you, ma'am. Our next witness will be testifying remotely. So it's going to take me a few minutes to set the equipment up. So just give me a few minutes. We'll try and get it started and we'll bring you back in when we're ready to go. Okay?